Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and great to have you on board in South Africa, where we are going to go to the Umzimkhulu River in the Underberg Mountains and try and break down some of the trout fishing streams there. Now, before I get there, I need to be able to match my flies. Now, it's all very well going to a fly tying shop or a fly tackle shop, and in my belief, I find a lot of those flies are made to catch the fishermen. They look lovely, they've got lovely colors, they're perfectly made. But I've found some over the years that really make a difference when it comes to fly fishing. And I want to share one or two of those with you today. And I'm going to be tying up a couple of pheasant tail nymphs, but really different looking to the ones that are just standard. Now, it's not traditional tying this. This is matched towards the flies and the marine life that live in these rivers here. And I've been doing this in this river for quite a few years, and I know the stuff that works. So these are a little bit different, and I tie them in a little bit of a different way in order to get the fish to absolutely believe it's the real thing. Now, there's an aquatic existence that happens in the river, and it goes right from a larva form, an egg form, larva form, and then it grows up, and then of course it hatches, it floats to the top, it hatches, and then it flies out as a fly, and then as it's gone and it's done its thing, it falls back into the water, and of course the trout are looking for this cycle of life that is happening. Now, what you got to be able to do is match it as it goes. So it's not like it's just gonna, you put a fly on your rod and you just throw it in the water and it's gonna work. You have to match specific things to what is going on in the conditions around. You may have sunshine, you may have faster running water, slow running water, deep water, shallow water, cold conditions, hot conditions, temperature of the water comes up, goes down. But it's the way in which I do the bodies that actually make it a little bit more believable. Instead of using some of the traditional tying formats that are there, I tend to use some differences, and that may be interesting and it may be useful to you when you go fishing. But here's how to tie them. Check this out. Here's some of the equipment that I'm going to be using today. So I've got a traveling vise. This one's been going with me for many years right now. And then we've got my Riverside fly tying kit. So it's a small little box, very nice and convenient. It has only what I need inside, so I can be on the river and I can be tying if I need to tie. So let's get into it and let's tie these flies. Just starting off, getting some hooks. Now, this is the majority of what I have in my box. Hooks are very important because they actually determine what the fly does, whether it floats, whether it sinks, how fast it sinks. And I have an array of different hooks for different species. I might be wanting to make a sedge or even a stonefly or a dragonfly larvae or whatever it might be. So I need all the different hooks. So these are some of the hooks that I'm going to be using on this particular tour itself. Now you'll see these are all nymph hooks and they're all short shanks. I've got them in different sizes so that they emulate the different stages of development of aquatic species in the water, small nymphs, dragonfly larvae, mosquito larvae, whatever they may be. And a pheasant tail nymph pretty much can do all of those. It's a very suggestive bait. So I've got them in short shank size 12s moving upwards, and these are the ones I'm going to be tying right now. So let me select a few and let's get started. There's the hook into the vise right now, and notice I leave a lot of space there, so in order to be able to work around very easily. This is actually a size 14 short shank, which I'm going to be using right now to start my first flies, and it's the favored size that I like to start with in these particular rivers. So let's get this going and let's get some thread on. Right, this is just spooling. So you take your black, I'm using black thread today, spool it from the eye and just move backwards up the shank towards the end. You're going to be working from the bottom of your fly first up towards the top. So you just go all the way down with the spare thread to the side so that really is secure. And you want to make it a quality fly because you want it to last, all day if you can. You'll see I have different color pheasant tails, more olivey one that's been dyed a little bit, very browny oaky type color for the darker flies, and something a little bit more interesting for the fish to see. So you can vary it a little bit, and we're going to be using this for the tail now. So let's tie that in. The one that I've selected is the darker one to start. I'm just going to chop right off at the quill like that, and that gives me that little pinch there. I'm going to take that down, and you'll see how nice and long those fibers are. And you just need to place it towards the end and just get a little bit of a tail going there. Try and keep them all even. A little bit of a tail at the end, and then just secure that in nicely on that last spot. Moving backwards a little bit, you'll need a few turns with your spool here just to make sure it's got enough. Remember, you want the fly to last all day. But you can see how that gives it that little tail, very natural looking little tail. Okay, and that's the start there of getting that fly looking really neat. Next up, I use some flash. Now, you can use little tiny bits of copper wire or little sort of ribbing. There's various different things you can use. I find this one to be quite good for some reason in the river, so I do like to use a little bit of flash, and I'll secure that straight on the same way. Just there again, moving backwards, keeping your tail always nice. It's got to look good, and you've got to wind back to your starting point for the twirling of the body. So there it is, the flash is on, and I just leave it loose over the side. Right, now you're going to be twirling that around the main shank of the hook, so you want to bring it back to the starting position where your heckle is there, okay, and your flash is back as well. Now that would be my starting point. Now from there I come all the way back. That also secures everything. I come all back to 3/4 and I hold it at 3/4 right there, because I'm going to need to build a casing for this a little bit later on. Now we're going to get our heckle pliers, and we're just going to trap in a little bit of the heckles here. Hopefully they trap in nicely. This is just for the body part. So just get your heckle pliers and trap it in there. Try and trap it all in if you can. There it is. And you start your twist straight away, and you bring it up the body very carefully, because you're going to get around a lot of very tight obstacles. This is a size 14, so it's very small. You just wind it up. I lost a little bit of a heckle there already. That's going to happen. To that 3/4, can you see how I'm doing that? To that 3/4, and I like to get a little thicker as I go, so I really like to use that. Now, you take your thread now, and just coming back on that a little bit, you just secure that down, so it's breaking away a little bit. I want to try to make sure I secure that little bit of section there, and I come behind it and trap it. There you go. So I've come behind it, I've trapped it nicely. There you go. And we're good to let the heckle go now. Once you secured it, just take it off. I like to take it off and start with a new piece for the casing. Some people will just go straight off and do it all the way, which you can do as well, but if the idea is not to have a million flies, the idea is to have good flies, okay? And just make sure that that is all secure. The fly needs to last the whole day. And you can see that's created quite a nice little body there. I get the flash now, just trying very hard to twist itself everywhere but where I want it to go. So let me see if I can organize that. There it is. Okay, now you take your flash and you use it as ribbing up your fly, just nice and evenly. It creates that little bit of a flash. It creates a little bit of a bubble looking situation under the water. It looks like there's bubbles, and you know, sometimes when aquatic life live on the bottom, they get bubbles on them, and that looks just very natural. And it's got that little bit of flash, a little bit of bubble looking, very natural looking, you know, nothing that's just gimmicky or too over flashed or anything else like that. Now I just take my scissors and I trim that off, and then I can use that piece of flash for another fly. Really secure that section nicely now. Secure it really, really good. You can see what that's done. It's got a nice body there now. You can see that there's a nice bit of flash. It's very neat. And now we're going to do the thorax part of the fly. For this particular application, I'm putting a little bit of peacock herl in there. Now that's because peacock herl is very versatile. You can use it very, very effectively for bodies, but you can also use it as a kind of like a dubbing for the main thorax of the fly. So it'll need 2 strands there, and now I'm going to secure another piece of pheasant tail for the cover that goes, the flap that goes over the thorax. Taking a little bit of pheasant tail again and just securing that in there nicely at 3/4. Again, make sure it's good and secure. There you go. And you can deal with all the other stuff later. So you've got your pheasant tail coming off, and you've got your 2 strands of peacock herl. Now, next, all you do, you take that threading that you've secured, and you take it up to the front. Okay, there's a couple of little extras there that we can take care of later. That's not a problem. And then you just wind this around slowly. It's nice and long, so it's pretty easy to do. And you want pheasant's tails to be easy flies. You go through a lot of them, but you also want to be able to tie on stream side, so you want to be quite quick at getting flies back in the water. You can see that's good. I then come over. I then come over again. That's just to secure that. Pull this all back off the eye like this, and then I just secure it again. Just a whole lot to secure back on itself. And start your head as well, but you can secure back on it quite nicely. There you go. Okay, and then you can trim that excess right there. So we'll do that, trim it up, take it off. There you go, 1, 2, and you can use that for another fly, so you keep it handy nearby. And then you start to get your pheasant tail, and your pheasant tail just comes straight over the top like this, nice and straight over the top like that, and you just secure that in, and there is your thorax. This is a nice juicy nymph. So we just have that nicely. Okay, and once you've got it in good, bring it back like this, and you can just give it a nice turn as well. Make sure it's trapped in really good. Make sure it's trapped in really good. There you go. Once you've got that, this will be for some more flies. Again, you can take it off. Handy, and then you just drive it home. Then you can build your head, pulling it back always so that you can keep the eye of the hook nice and exposed for the line to go through. There's nothing worse than trying to get your line through there early in the morning and you can't actually see what you're doing. So that's pretty clean. You can see how that really starts looking like it should. Okay, coming up to where I'm doing the knot now, and I just go over the top. Now bearing in mind I do a lot of my tying on stream sides, so I just pass it through there and then I pull it up slowly. I put my finger on the top like that, and that allows me to just pull it up without it slipping over and get it onto the mark. There it is, boom. So there it is, all nice and tight. Okay, there it is, all nice and tight. Very cool. Okay, now that only really needs one of those, but I like to do 2. So again, I'll do it again. Go over the top, come underneath, and tighten that onto itself by putting my finger there, tightening it up. There you go. It's got a double knot in it now, and that is pretty good. I can now just trim that off at the end. There it is. Okay. All right. Now, if you have a look at that fly right now, already that's looking exactly like we want it to look, and that's pretty important. Let's finish it off with a little bit of varnish, and then it's done. Right, now I've got the varnish at the end, and I just dip it in, and I just give it a little bit of a touch on top, just like that. Trying very hard not to cement the head, although it's not a big train smash if you do, because you just put a little hook through it anyways, but it is better if you keep it there. There it is. That is the fly looking really good. Just another little smidge just to make sure that that is not going to come undone. It's going to last me a whole day and no knots are going to come undone. There it is, everybody, and what a beautiful fly. Now, some of the cool highlights of this fly are its proportions. You can see its proportions are exactly what they look like in nature. You've got some beautiful tail over here. This is a natural feature that a lot of aquatic insects have when they're under the water. You can see as we come up, we've got a lovely little body in proportion to the thorax, which has what looks like legs underneath it. You can see that. Head's in proportion, very good. But the final feature, and the one I wanted to show you, and the one I think gets very good bites, is that twisting that comes up the body, and you can see that can easily be seen as bubbles on the actual nymph as it's coming up towards the surface. Looks like it might be coming up to hatch. It's definitely in that stage, nice thick on the thorax, but those little bubbles there are what make this look like it needs to be eaten, and you will get catches on this fly. So tie it up yourself, easy materials, easy put together, beautiful fly, and it definitely catches fish.